Hello and welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this video, we are going to discuss the questions that appeared in the previous year, that is 2021, related to Indian economy. When we look at the way the questions were distributed, there were a total of 13 questions in 2021 related to Indian economy, out of which 10 were static and 3 were current affairs related. So the current affairs related ones, if you just knew very minimal things, you could have answered it rather easily. So look at the first question. So what I do is I cover the static questions first and then we go to the current affairs questions. So question number 1, with reference to Indian economy, demand pull inflation can be caused or increased by which of the following? So it is asking about the demand pull inflation, which essentially means that it has to somehow increase the purchasing power of the people, right? If the purchasing power, as in if the people have more money, then demand will automatically increase. So expansionary policies would entail that the money in the hands of the people or the money supply in the market would increase because the government spending would increase, right? Or for that matter, even the the RBI may reduce the interest rates, because of which the money supply in the market would increase. So one would automatically lead to what the purchasing power, or so as to speak, the money in the hands of the people would increase. Second is fiscal stimulus, again that is about the government spending. If it increases, automatically the demand would increase. Third is inflation indexing of wages, as in whenever the inflation increases, whenever inflation goes up, then the wages would also go up, right? Why? Because their wages have been attached to the inflation. As inflation rate increases, wages will also be increased. However, the problem here is that the wage increase will be in accordance to the inflation increase. So it essentially means that the real income would remain the same, whereas their nominal income would be increasing. That's about it. So in real terms, right, in real terms, their purchasing power would not increase because of inflation indexing of wages. So their real income still remains the same. Their nominal income may increase. So option 3 is not right. Option number 4 is higher purchasing power. This automatically would lead to it. And then rising interest rates. What about this? If interest rates are increased, the amount of money which people borrow from the banks would reduce, right? Borrowing would reduce. If borrowing reduces, then the amount in the hands of the people, the money in the hands of the people would reduce. So 5 cannot be an answer. So answer would be 1, 2 and 4 only. That would be option A. Clear? Next. Question number 2, which one of the following is likely to be one of the most inflationary in its effects? The keyword is most inflationary, which means the other options can also be inflationary, but it is asking for the most inflationary effect. So the first one, when we look at it, repayment of public debt, that is the government is repaying back whatever it has borrowed from the public. That's what it means. So the government is paying back the money. That is, you have the public here. The government is giving rupees to the public, which means money supply would increase. It would lead to inflation. So this would lead to inflation. A, that is right. Second, borrowing from the public, that is government is taking the money from the public, rupees from the public, to finance a budget deficit. Automatically, when the government borrows and spends for the public itself, so the money supply does not reduce or increase, it remains the same in this case. Borrowing from the banks to finance a budget deficit, so instead of the public, it is borrowing from the banks. So it takes the rupees and spends on the people. So the amount of money in the market So when we say market, market includes the banks, government, and the public. It would still remain the same even in the third case. And the fourth one is creation of new money to finance a budget deficit. New money would be coming from the RBI side. So if you add more money, automatically the inflation would increase. So repayment of the public debt, the money which the government had, it is paying to the public, right? Still, it would remain the same amount of money in the whole market. But when RBI added some extra money into the market, what would it lead to? It would lead to higher level of inflation. So the answer would be A and D. Out of this, the most apt answer would be D, not A. So the answer is D. Question number 3, which among the following steps is most likely to be taken at the time of economic recession? Okay, so what is a recession? During a recession, the aggregate demand will be lower. So the GDP, real GDP will be also, GDP growth rate will be in the negative territory. So compared to the last reference period, the amount of output that is generated, aggregate output, that is your GDP that is generated, would be in the negative. So lesser compared to the previous corresponding period. So because of this, the unemployment levels will be also on the rise. So these will be the situations. So that would be an economic recession. Which among the following steps is most likely to be taken? So the question again says most likely, which means you can take multiple steps, but which one is the most likely one which you are going to take, right? So the ultimate idea is to somehow increase the aggregate demand. So how do you increase the aggregate demand? To increase the aggregate demand, you can do certain things. One, you have to put the money into the hands of the people. So increase the money supply. So now how can you increase the money supply or increase the employment, right? So if you increase the employment, automatically money supply would also increase. So to do these two things, obviously somebody has to spend. So spending has to increase. Or you can bring down the interest rates so that people can borrow and spend. So these two things are to be done. So let's see what options do we have. Cut in the tax rates. So that also would be the cut in tax rates, right? That would also increase what? So the purchasing power, or so as to say disposable income, would increase, which means their ability to buy would increase. Basically aggregate demand would increase. So three things can be done overall. So cut in taxes accompanied by increase in interest rate. If you increase the interest rate again, the money supply would reduce. So the first option is not the right one. Increase in the expenditure on public projects. Look at this, spending increase, yes. Increase in tax rates. When you increase the tax rates, obviously here we are saying we have to cut the tax rates. So C is wrong. Reduction of expenditure on public projects. If you reduce the expenditure, then it actually serves the opposite direction. So D is wrong. The only possible option is B. Okay, so that would be B for question number 3. The next question, the money multiplier in an economy increases with which one of the following? So money multiplier as a concept, if you look at money multiplier, you have two ways of looking at it. Money multiplier can be looked at this way, 1 by R into X. So R would be the reserve ratio. Okay, it would be the reserve ratio. X would be the initial amount of money which you are considering, that is the base money M0. Okay, so obviously if the reserve ratio increases, when I say reserve ratio, it would be CRR plus SLR, right? So whenever the reserve ratio, if you are increasing, automatically, so whatever number you get out of this is M3. Okay, so money multiplier, the output M3 would increase if R reduces. So R and M3 are inversely proportional. Yes, they are inversely proportional. So the other way of looking at it is money multiplier is equal to M3 by M0. Okay, so the money multiplier is directly proportional to M3, right? Inversely proportional to M0. That's what we can say. Now, let's see here what would happen in the first case. Increase in cash reserve ratio in the banks. If you increase the cash reserve ratio, look at this. If you increase R, the outcome, that is M3, would reduce automatically because they are inversely proportional. 1 is not an answer. Increase in SLR in the banks, again the same thing. So R would be CRR and SLR, so inversely proportional. So you have two other options: increase in the banking habit of the people and increase in the population of the country. So increasing the population of the country, there is no guarantee that they are going to use the banking channels. So if they're not using the banking channels, there would be no use of reserve ratios or speaking about even the money multiplier effect, because you can't even calculate it properly. And for that reason, D would not give you a straight answer whatsoever. The only option that would be practically, feasible in this particular question is C. So answer is C for this. Next. In India, the central banks function as the lender of last resort. Look at this, lender of last resort. It only means that if nobody is lending a particular institution, who will come and help them out, right? So that is the meaning of lender of last resort. Usually refers to which of the following. So usually refers to which of the following. One, lending to trade and industry bodies. So central bank does not lend to trade and industry bodies, so done, it's useless. Second, providing liquidity to banks having temporary crisis. Yes, it does provide an option to the banks. Third, lending to governments to finance budgetary deficits. This work the RBI is not doing it. So only short-term mismatches to be managed. The RBI lends the money to the government using a method called WMAs, ways and means advances. That's the only way through which the RBI lends money to the government. It does not lend for long term, right? Especially to finance the budgetary deficits. It does not do that particular thing. It has been stopped since the FRBM Act. FRBM Act explicitly states that the RBI is not supposed to lend the money to the government for financing the budgetary deficits. Okay, so the answer is only 2. Okay, that is B. Next, Indian government bond yields. Indian government bond yields are influenced by which of the following? Right? Indian government bond yields are influenced by which of the following? So actions of US Federal Reserve, does it affect? Let's see if it actually affects. Let's suppose the US Federal Reserve, US Fed Reserve increases the interest rate of US Treasury bills, US T-bills. If it increases the interest rate of US T-bills, what would happen in India? In India, what would happen? So in India, for T-bills, let's suppose there is a price for a particular T-bill, which is rupees 100. The yield is, let's say, 8% is the yield. For the US T-bill, before the increase of interest rate, it was 7%, let's suppose. That is the yield, right? Yield is 7%. Here, yield is 8%. So if US T-bills at this point increases it to 8% or 9%, don't you think people who have invested in the T-bills in India will rush towards US Federal Reserve, US Federal Reserve issued T-bills? Yes or no? So they will come here. So when they run away from here, what would happen to the yield provided in India by the T-bills in India? Obviously, the yields here would start to fall, right? Yields here would start to fall. So they would be vacating the space. For this reason, what is to be done? The yield is supposed to be increased here as well so that you attract the investment back. So whether it will affect or not, obviously it will affect. So one is right. Second, actions of the Reserve Bank of India automatically, yes, if interest rates are increased by the RBI in India, so the yields will get affected, the prices will get affected for the government bonds. Third, inflation and short-term interest rates. Yes, with inflation, the output, as in the interest rates, real interest rates and the nominal interest rate would get affected, no doubt about it. So the RBI takes the measures also in accordance to the inflation itself. So it will have a impact on the yields. So 1, 2 and 3, all the three are an answer to this. So answer is D. Question number 7. If you keep other things constant, market demand for a good might increase. If so, keep all the things constant, what would happen to the market demand for a particular good? Let's consider that good to be A, right? So this A is a detergent powder. Let's suppose there is B. It is a competitor detergent. It's a competitor detergent. Okay. And then you have another product, let's say C, which is, related to this, right? Which is related to this. So a washing machine. A washing machine. Now, so let's suppose now in this example, A and B are substitute goods. Okay, A and B are substitutes to each other. A and C are complements to each other. What does it mean? Without A, C cannot exist, right? That's the meaning. So A and C are used together. The A and B are not used together. A can replace B and B can replace A. That's the meaning. So A and B are substitute goods. A and C are complementary goods. Okay. Now, so market demand for, let's suppose, A might increase if price of its substitute good increases. So if price of B increases, the demand for B would fall, right? It is the law of demand. So if the price of something increases, the demand for that would drop. So if price of B is increasing, what would happen to the demand for A? It would automatically increase. So A is right, that is 1 is right. Second, price of its complement good increases. If price of washing machines is increasing, nobody would buy washing machines. So when they are not buying washing machines, the detergent powders also become useless. They can't buy detergent powder as well. So we are supposing that detergent powders are used only for washing machines, right? So 2, price of its complement increases. If the price of the complement increases, there would be of no use, that is A. 2 is wrong. 3, the good is an inferior good. So what is a good which is inferior? An inferior good is a good which people assume that holding it is not so essential, or so as to speak, less prestigious, right? Less prestigious, or people attach lesser value to it. Okay. So as income increases, people look at certain goods as inferior quality, right? So either in terms of quality or status, they consider them to be inferior. So people's income, consumers' income is increasing, and the good is an inferior good. A is inferior, so the brand becomes inferior. Now will they demand more? No, they would demand less of it. So 3 is wrong. This particular good A, its price falls. automatically the demand increases. So the answer is 1 and 4 only, which is A. Clear? Question number 8. Foreign currency convertible bonds. So we have to consider these foreign currency convertible bonds, foreign institutional investment with certain conditions. This becomes very important. Global depository receipts, what they are, and then non-resident external deposits. Which among the following can be included? So it says can be. It's not saying are included. So can be included in the FDI. So the first one is foreign currency convertible bonds. FCCVs. So the thing is, these are bonds by their very nature, but they can be converted. Converted into what? Equity. Right? Can they become foreign direct investment? Yes, if their investment is more than 10% in a firm. Okay. So can it become FDI? Yes, it can become FDI. Otherwise, what would it become if it is less than 10%? Automatically, it would be called what? It would be called FPI. Okay. So the second one says foreign institutional investment, right? Foreign institutional investment with certain conditions. What is that condition again? If they are investing more than 10%, then automatically it becomes what? FDI. Third, global depository receipts. So what are these global depository receipts? Let's say an Indian firm wants to raise the money from US. Okay, it wants to raise the money from US. So US citizen loan, yeah, US citizen will not be able to invest directly in the Indian firm through Indian stock market, right? It's not allowed as an individual, right? US citizen. So what does he do? The Indian firm, gives the shares to a depository in US, a US depository. It is usually a bank. This bank issues the shares to US citizens. Whatever US citizens hold now is called a GDR, Global Depository Receipt, right? That would be called as Global Depository Receipt. Now, so this particular way of issuing the shares through a depository which is located in a foreign country would be known as what? Global Depository Receipt. So if this also is more than 10% worth of investment in a particular firm, then what would it be? It would be FDI again, right? What about non-resident external deposits? So if non-resident Indians, they are making a deposit in Indian banks, right? What is it? That money which an NRI has put in Indian bank has to be returned to this person, which is a liability for the bank. Is it a FDI? No, they have not purchased the shares as such. They have just made a deposit which is a liability. So NRI deposits, it cannot ever be qualified to become what? FDI. So the answer would be 1, 2 and 3 only. The answer is A. Next, consider the following statements. The effect of devaluation of a currency. So it says devaluation, not depreciation. So devaluation is when the government or the central bank does reduce the value of a currency against another foreign currency on its own, not decided by the market, not determined by the market. So not market determined, let's say. So whenever the market determines that the currency value has to go down, then we would call it as what? If it is market determined, then we call it as depreciation. Okay, two words, they are used interchangeably many times, but they are not supposed to be used that way. So the effect of devaluation of a currency is that it necessarily, the term is necessarily, so there is no option that it may or may not happen, right? It says necessarily it must happen. It improves the competitiveness of the domestic exports in the foreign markets. So what does it do when you devaluate the currency? It essentially means that, let's say, for rupees 80, you get 1 kg of apple in India, 1 kg apple, you get it for rupees 80. This is in India. So the same 1 kg of apple in US, it is being sold for $1 now. So the market exchange rate, right, is $1 is equal to rupees 80. Now let's devalue our currency. How do you devalue your currency? We'll make it as $1 is equal to 85 rupees. I devalued the currency. When I devalued the currency, it is 1 kg is equal to rupees 80 in India. But when you go and sell it in the US, do they have to spend 85 rupees to buy $1 now? No. They are supposed to, buy it at a lesser price, which means probably they are supposed to spend $0.9 to buy the same 1 kg of apples there. So the price reduced for them. Will they demand more or less? They will demand more. The demand would increase, which means India has to export more, right? So competitiveness increased, one, that is for sure. Second, increase the foreign value of domestic currency. So, does the value of our currency increase? No, absolutely not. Improves the trade balance. This cannot happen. Why? Because what if we are importing? What if we are importing as it stays today? As it stands for India today, we have to import no matter what we do. We need some necessities, basic necessities are required, which we have to depend on imports. So if exports are becoming, very competitive, at the same time, imports will become costlier for us. Why? Let's suppose we are purchasing a particular product for, $10 as of now. $10 means Indians are supposed to pay rupees 8,000, right? Rupees 800. According to what? According to $1 is equal to rupees 80. Now let's devalue. When you devalue the currency, $1 is equal to 85, which means they are charging, $10 itself. But how much are we supposed to pay? Rupees 850. Is it costly or not? It becomes costly automatically. So does it improve the trade balance? No, it actually makes it worse maybe. So the option 3 is wrong. The only, outcome which is going to be possible because of devaluation for certain is option A. One only. Question number 10. Which one of the following affects the creation of following effects of creation of black money in India has been the main cause of worry? So it again states the main cause of worry to the government of India. Now, in such questions, you have to look at the broader picture. Take the broader picture. Why? Because when they say the main cause, it only means that there are other causes as well, which are stated in the question itself. Look at this: diversion of resources to purchase real estate and investment in luxury housing. This is very much possible. Investment in unproductive activities and purchase of precious stones. This is also very much possible. Large donations to political parties and growth of regionalism. Now, this is possible. Large donations to political parties, growth of regionalism, and that is a far-fetched idea. Let's, consider the first part. Then this is also possible. And finally, you have loss of revenue to the state exchequer due to tax evasion. Now, this is also possible. So while all the four are possible, it feels like we are inclined to go with either option A or B or D, but which gives a wider understanding. The most important worry for the government of India is option number D. Why? Because it is losing the revenue. At the same time, illegal activity is also being done, that is the tax evasion. So the answer would be D. The most apt answer would be D. Clear? Next, question number 11, 12 and 13 are related to your current affairs. So what is this water credit that had been in news? Basically, it's a microfinance, thing. So it puts the microfinance tools to work in water and sanitation sector. So that is very much true. So that is the first one. Second, it is a global initiative launched under the aegis of WHO. Now this is wrong. It is launched by particular not-for-profit organization called water.org. Okay, this was in news back then, right, way back in 2021. So that is why you have it in the question paper. And then it aims to enable the poor people to meet their water needs without depending on subsidies. So this is also true. So question number 11, answer would be 1 and 3. So C. So this is completely based on current affairs. Okay, and it is not in depth. They have asked. You just had to know who has launched this global initiative. Okay, and then question number 12, this question, they gave it because you had a particular scam going on that is related to Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Society, right? Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. It is a multi-state cooperative bank. So there was a scam which was going on because of it is a urban cooperative bank, right? Multi-state urban cooperative bank. There was a scam which happened there. Due to that, this question appeared. So with reference to urban cooperative banks in India, consider the following statements. They are supervised and regulated by local boards set up by the state governments. No, the regulatory control has been given to the RBI. So what RBI has done? So RBI has, started a urban banks department within it. Urban banks department within RBI. So that is the one which has the responsibility of regulating as well as supervising the primary urban cooperatives. So option 1 is wrong. So the moment you remove option 1, option 2 and 3, you got it right there. Okay, so it was very much in news. That is the reason you had this particular question. So they were brought under the purview of Banking Regulation Act 1949 through an amendment in 1996. That is right. And they can issue equity shares, preference shares, as well as bonds. Okay, they can also issue bonds. Okay, so option 2 and 3 are right. So next, the last question with reference to India, consider the following statements. Retail investors, again this was in news, that is why you have this question. So a very direct question. Retail investors were allowed into the primary market. So retail investors through demat account can invest in T-bills and Government of India debt bonds in primary market. This was very much in news. 1 is absolutely right. So when you get 1 as right, so you can eliminate C and D. You only have A and B to deal with. So the negotiated dealing system ordering matching is a government securities trading platform of the Reserve Bank of India. Let's suppose you did not know about it because it is very much in detail. So you did not know about it. Let's suppose 2, you did not know. The CDSL is jointly promoted by the RBI and the Bombay Stock Exchange. Now that particular statement, the third statement, the CDSL is promoted by BSC, yes, but it is not by RBI. It is other leading banks in India. Okay, other leading banks. So again, it is a static knowledge, right? When we learn about the depositories, we are supposed to know about who the promoters are. So RBI is not the promoter. So if anything, SEBI could be the promoter, obviously not the RBI. Okay, so you can remove 3 easily. The moment you remove 3, you have only 1 and 2 left. So this is sort of a difficult question, we could say. However, this particular term was also in news. If you had just gone through it a bit, right, you could have answered. So of all the questions, let's say there were 13 questions. Out of the 13 questions, you could have easily answered 12. This question, right? So until and unless you had come across this in the newspaper, it would have been difficult, right? So that's about it for this particular video. I'll take up the 2020 previous year questions in the next video. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe. Have a nice day. Thank you.